Hello, welcome to the Mac and Wise Show. I'm here with my lovely wife, Sabine Wise. Thank you so much for being here with me, Beth. I'm also here with, in conjunction with my producer, Rab Ford, One Love,
One
and
love, black man.
my engineer, Adam Wise. So today, Rab and my
Hi,
wife,
Adam.
we here to discuss a topic that's been going around uh, actually since 1970 and probably before that, but we only really know what happened in 1970 when it really started, when Roe versus Wade really began. Before I do that, though, before I get into any content, I also got to give a warm shout out to Bang Music Group, Yesterday's Unisex Salon, and Platinum Calf Productions. And now we can get into the content. Thank you so much for being here.
So, beloved, tell me about what is Wade versus Roe. What's a lot of people there might don't even have an idea what that is. Tell me about
Okay, Rab, it was a decision that was handed down by the Supreme Court dealing with women's right to have abortions. Um, am I correct about that, babe?
Yes, the decision was made precisely in 1973
Mm-hmm.
and by the Supreme Court, as you stated. And the decision basically gave the right to a woman to have an abortion, which wasn't the case prior to the decision.
Okay, so that's basically what happened with that decision that was made by the Supreme Court for a woman to have the right to have abortions. Any other questions?
yeah, yes, sir. Another question I want to have. There seems to be a lot of issue about Wade versus Roe all throughout the television, the media, because they snatched that decision away from a woman, their right to abort a child, whatever reason. How did, as a woman, tell me how does that feel?
Well, the decision was overturned recently, last year, I believe.
It was overturned June 24th, 2022, which was last
Oh,
month.
thank you. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome,
Yes,
sweetheart.
it was overturned, and there's been a lot of discussion. There's an uproar, especially with women. You know, as women, because obviously, we most of us are against the fact that we our right are being taken away. So why would we not have the right to have an abortion if we wanted to? And so we see it as a fundamental flaw in the law. It's very simple. If we choose to have an abortion, then we should have the right to have one, and it makes sense. However, what most people are not thinking about, in my opinion, is that there's an unborn child. There's a child who's,
Mm,
they use the term viable fetus.
mhm.
Well, it is a child, depending on how you look at it. And from a Christian perspective, which I am a Christian.
Mm.
This is a
Praise
child.
God for
This is
that.
a child that was conceived. It's a child. Well, they're talking about different stages of the pregnancy. The decision have different many details. Where at certain stage of his pregnancy, you cannot abort it, or you can, and so forth. However, when that child is conceived, it is alive. It has a soul. You know, if you're a believer, if you're a Christian or a Muslim or whatever your religion is, you understand that when a child is conceived, it has a soul. God put a soul in that. If the body is growing, but it has everything else. The brain develops at a certain stage, and we can look into that later. So when they look at the abortion issue, they give the right. Some people believe that the woman who wants to have a right to choose, per se, is murdering a child. I mean, for lack of a better word, she's killing a human being. So, what about the right of that child? That child who's being killed. Okay, well, you have a right to have that abortion, fine. So you deciding now to kill another human being. That's when the pro-life people are coming, and that's the argument of pro-life.
Mhm,
Is
mhm,
so. And with that, well, as far as that's concerned, my opinion is this: if you're going to make that decision to kill a child, you should, if you feel that you have the right to do that, I feel personally that this is a decision not to take lightly. We should sit back and think about it. Okay, we should think seriously about it because it's not something to be taken lightly.
I agree. I like that. I have a question for you. She brought something to mind, and it brought a
Hmm.
personal experience of mine.
mhm,
And my sister, my oldest sister, she was subject to something lingering to Roe versus Wade because in the 60s there was no abortions.
Right.
Now look at how this can affect you if you can't abort a child. Look what people go through. She went through an illegal abortion process in New York.
You
And
cut her
back then
up
they was taking the clothes hangers and
ripping them. Yeah.
right. Well, she just got a check.
Mhm.
My sister was like real intelligent book wise, but very street dumb. She was pretty young sister, came up from projects on this diaspora from the south to the projects. Then when these homes opened up with better jobs in the
Mhm.
70s, so she's kind of naive to
Mhm.
streets. But
So you said something, not to interject, but you said something as far as her going to the hospital, and
yes,
they did an illegal
abortion
and they did
left her
something.
dead.
So they left. Did she die?
Yes, they left her dead. We found the body a month later.
Mm.
Rat infested, so it's eaten up.
Yes.
So this is what the reason why I said that. I want to show you a statement to show you what the women are subject to if they say no to, or you don't have a right to an abortion. So what about the women that say they're not going to settle for that because they still have, like sis said,
Right.
it could be pro-life, but you got pro-choice too. You can't take a woman's right to away from that because it's her body.
Absolutely.
So they're going to go through those means. So what can you say for if the situation resorts to that? Because that's what it's going to end up to if they keep pushing this. Because women are not going to settle for that, as we can see.
Mm.
What can we say to ease a woman's mind before she make that drastic step? Because the end result to the wrong decision.
Well, at this point in time, Rap, they do have a state decision. In other words, the Constitution, the Supreme Courts made it. Any state has the decision on whether they want that to be legalized in their state.
Right.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
at this point now, and I'm not saying that it won't get further and further intensified as we go on, because certain states have it and certain states won't.
Right.
And as we know, political pressure puts things in different perspectives.
Right.
Like one minute, a politician will say, "I'm for this," because he
That's
wants to
true.
be in office and he wants his constituents to
Mhm.
be with him. And then if they turn, then he's with that.
Right.
So it really depends on, because they took it out of the form of the rights of people and put it more in the forms of the Constitution, and they put it more in forms of the Supreme Court and then human beings, right? And so because that governs us, right? That governs us, and it makes us obey certain laws. If we don't, we'll have havoc. But at the same time, this is what the women are fighting for. They're fighting for their right to be able to do the things that they see appropriate for themselves.
Right.
So when you start getting into church and state, is a whole mess,
Right.
right? It's a whole mess, because you'll have people believe in one thing, and then you have another, and this is the argument. This is
Right, right.
this is what how the
True.
decisions are made. And
Right.
just like I said, when it comes to politics, then people are swayed one way or another, depending on the constituency, depending on the way they want to be governed in their state, or in the um, in the Constitution. So I believe that she has a beautiful answer, and I believe most people are indifferent to answers because you see two sides of every spectrum. Matter of fact, it's four sides to every spectrum. Matter of fact, the spectrum is just
They're
enormous.
varied, right?
Yeah. So there's so many variables.
Right.
I What I believe is that I hope people make the right choice.
Okay.
When
The
they
wise.
The
a
wise
wise
choice.
choice. Mac
I
and
caught
Wise.
that.
That's a
I
plug.
caught
That's a
that.
plug for it.
So can I,
Go
if
ahead.
I can, okay.
Go ahead,
So
baby.
yes, it's such an important topic. Obviously, we're talking about life. Whether
Wow,
or
it's
not.
not taken lightly. Yeah.
Yes, and so yes, I understand both sides. Yes, we all women we're entitled to our own decision. That this freedom of choice. We should choose to do whatever we want or feel that is right for our body or our lives, right? For that matter. Um, so I feel that it's a matter of education. I think
Mm.
on the matter I feel that rather than taking away our right to choose, or yeah, that's how they call it,
I'm gonna
right?
touch on something in a minute. Not to
We
cut you
should.
off, my love, but in a few minutes when you finish, I'm gonna
Yes,
touch on something.
I think we should, as women, especially because it's really, we see it a lot within the younger,
Generation.
generation. We
Mhm.
really do see that there. Those younger women should be educated, get more education about their bodies, about what they do. Okay, people address the matter of contraception.
That's what I was getting ready to say.
Okay, if you
You
don't
don't
want
want
a
to get
child,
pregnant.
get
Right. I was getting
protection.
ready. That's the matter subject I was getting ready to touch on.
There's abstinence, which I'll go for when my kids, because I'm a Christian. Okay, don't mess around. Like your body is very precious. Don't run around, do whatever.
Mhm.
You're not supposed to be doing that in the first place. Okay, you get married and do the right thing. It's still possible, believe it or not.
Mhm.
There's a lot of kids out here who don't mess around. You can have friends and do whatever, but your body is very,
Mhm.
it's secret. The temple of God. When you're God creation, you got to respect that and respect other, and that goes for boys, right?
Mhm.
Respect the girl's body. You got to respect it. It's
Mhm.
very important. So anyway, with that, I believe, going back to what I was saying earlier, those young girls should get educated about it.
Mhm.
Okay, so if let's just say, for instance, let's take a scenario where a girl, and this just happened recently, the girl, a 10-year-old girl, I believe, got pregnant, and it was an incest situation.
No, it's rape.
It was a rape. Okay, it's
Mhm.
very unfortunate. She got raped and got pregnant. First, I didn't even believe she got raped. She was so young, and then she's trying to get an abortion. Okay, so this is a terrible situation, right? It is really bad. It's horrible. But if that girl understands, this, obviously she's going to need a lot of help, right? Even an older woman who's raped, it's a bad situation. So in that scenario, the pro-choice women are arguing in that instant, in that example, that why would she have to go through life with that, carry with pregnancy to term, have that child, and have that child, raise that child who they feel will be a reminder of that terrible incident, in her life. The child will be a constant reminder of something that she wants to forget. She probably will have to go through therapy, get all the help she need. A woman who's raped is horrible. I mean, I wouldn't even, venture to understand it. But the thing with that, if that child who's coming over has, I mean, believe it or not, doesn't have much to do with that incident, with that terrible situation, the rape situation. If that lady, that young mother gets help, the help that she needs, if she gets the proper help, gets with therapy, and I'm sure there's systems in place to help people, women who's been, I believe that it's there. If she gets the proper help that she needs, while that child is in the care of another family, which it will bring in about the option of adoption. If she get the proper help and she comes out of it, and there are people who survive that, also there are women who, you know can testify to that. She will look at that child and not even remember that. The point I'm trying to make is the child that we most pro-choice women are saying, okay, that child had to go in that particular instance, like the incest or rape. The child has nothing to do with that. This is a child who's coming in the world and needs love, all the love that they can have. They can have, and they shouldn't focus on taking that child out, like literally killing that child through abortion. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, bottom line, it's not the solution, and that's my point of view. And I think most women who are pro-choice share that view. I mean, pro-life. I'm sorry. I mean, pro-life share that view. I'm sorry. Yeah, pro-life share that view. So again, it's a matter of education. It really is. It's hard. I cannot, say that I can understand what a woman who's been raped goes through. I can't even say that. It will be, I can't even imagine what the horrific, what how they feel. But I don't believe that aborting that child would be the remedy or the solution for that. That's
Okay.
my position.
Okay.
Hmm.
I mean, that this is what um goes on in the conversation
Okay.
because what happens is a lot of times one person feels one way,
Yes.
and then another person feels another way,
Absolutely.
and it just depends on the understanding a person has about where they stand in life with if their religious
Mm-hmm.
beliefs entail them to believe that that should be what it is,
Yes.
or do you entail that I should have the total authority over what I do with my body. And so this is the subject matter that's going on and has been going on and it's going to continue to go on
Yeah.
because everyone has an opinion of how they perceive it should be, right? Um, because at one token you can say uh, let the child live and let it be taken away from the lady, and then when at a certain point in time maybe she'll seek out the child, which is understandable, right?
She might not.
But right, she might
But
not,
the child will
but
be in a place
but
where
this
they
is
are
this is the
careful.
horrific feeling
Mm-hmm.
that somebody feels that they was violated,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, that person, I don't care if it's a child, a grown person, or whoever, if you violate it, you already have a tendency to hate,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can't, it's one way to say, just be strong and have the baby, but if you feel violated, if you feel somebody did something to you that violated your body or violated your mind, because any person that has been raped or have incest, they go through a whole life.
Well, that's
Um,
when they want them to give up a child to adoption.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
if
I'm
you can't
saying
help,
though, when
and they
when
get
you
help.
come to when you come, what I'm saying is
Mm-hmm.
you want this person
Yeah.
to go through 9 months knowing that they were violated, knowing that they somebody did something to them, and you want them to carry this person inside of them saying, oh, the person inside of them didn't do anything, somebody else did something, but it brings internal hate. They might not even have the baby of so much hatred inside because as you know, a woman has to be in the utmost
Yes.
good circumstances where she can even conceive.
Psychologically,
So,
emotionally. Yes,
hold
but
up,
I
I
understand.
need to speak.
I understand.
Right. So what happens is if you asking somebody to do that, I guess certain people have to be put in that situation, and then I could see them doing it and saying, okay, I did that. So if I could get somebody that has actually been through that and then gave birth and then was able to take a normal life and have the child, and they had a normal life, and I would say to myself, all praises due to God, Allah, or whoever you want to whoever you believe in or whatever your
Mm-hmm.
understanding of the most high is. But at the same token, it's easy to say, to me, it's easy to say that about anybody because they're not the ones that have been violated.
Yeah. True.
So now I'm go ahead, you can interject.
Yeah, that's why we're talking about help, because whether or not a child is growing in their womb, they still need that help,
They're going to
right?
need probably help for the rest of their life.
I have another
You,
question. Y'all brought something to mind, and it struck me when you said diabolical, and you showed me how these plots about the woman's back. And it struck. That's a good point. And then look at, we know the government, all governments are involved in this scheme to this deep in reference to stem cell, in
yeah.
reference to not just stem cell, but let's check out the sneak part.
Mm-hmm.
When they gave us when they first started doing this stuff for these COVID tests, they also had these shots that also altered the DNA, right? We know some of them tests alters the DNA. They had an issue out on Facebook, on television. Scientists came forward with this question. Once you take certain shots, now mind you, if your DNA changed, you're no longer that individual. So now you're owned by the person that owned that pattern. Now, what if that person have a baby? You see how this can come in, how this can tie in now? You can't have an abortion. You can't kill it on your own. And then it becomes somebody else's property because the DNA is no longer James Wise because that shot altered your DNA, right? You know, some of the shots do that. That's why and it's mixed with, now check this out. Some of the scientists were saying it's mixed with some, they don't say it was animal or whatever, but it's some kind of other species. It could be alien, they're saying. But now that's no longer you. But now, if that's in you, and a person buy that patent, Bill Gates and them is good for this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They buy that patent, you're no longer owned.
Mm-hmm.
Now that baby, that's why they don't allow you to. That's could be another plot for this abortion thing too. If you look at it on a deeper scale, now they just created a whole another entity that they own.
Oh, you
And
talking about your baby would be
Yeah,
corrupt
because
too?
Your
Because
baby,
their
because that
DNA
baby's
is
in that
corrupt.
DNA.
Oh, I
That's no
see.
longer your strand. That's whatever it is on that code that person just
That's
purchased.
interesting.
Now you can't secretly abort it when you realize all this stuff, right? Because they stopped making abortion legal. Now they own you and that child. What do you think about that?
I think that's a deep level. That's a really intellectual conversation to
That's
have.
interesting.
It is very interesting. Because I had a friend that I was just talking to that might even join the show a little bit later. And she was talking about how they had at one point was aborting kids or having kids killed so they could have the actual uh, parts of the body, and was able to do that. And there was a case study in Haiti where they seen that a lot of kids were being killed, and the parts and the livers and the hearts was donated to people who couldn't
Wow.
have
Mm.
who couldn't have hearts, or it was going to take too long for them to have hearts, or livers, or whatever the disease they was having, and the rich people was paying, and they was killing off the kids in order for them to get the particle or the.
Mm.
So I mean, it's a real deep subject, and it's a real deep subject, and I guess the more layers you peel under the onion, the more you see is really stink, and it
It's burning the
smells.
hell out your
Yeah.
eyes.
So, but that's an interesting question, Rab. What do you think about that? Today?
I've never heard of that theory. I did hear one time that there are people with bone marrow problem were using aborted fetuses to cure that. I heard about that a while ago, but that's definitely
Because now,
horrible.
think about it. If they do it to a poor class, they own these poor class. Now, what if these rich class, like you said about the organs, etc. Now, since they don't own all man, remember how those movies they show us? Now, think about these movies project us towards the future, right?
Yeah,
Everything we see on TV,
Yeah. It
10,
has
20
some
years
place
later,
later.
it's
It-
come
it-
yeah, that's
come
true.
to us.
But they said, they a friend of mine told me years ago, and the reason why they don't put the stuff that they have out because it'll slow the economy down. So if they put out stuff that is 10 light years away and they put it out now, it'll mess up the economy because it's too mind blowing. They have to wait for
Oh, wow.
they have to wait for the people to catch up to the concepts that they already have.
But
You see, they got
So-
robots now,
so they
right?
can
but
People
check
are
out,
too
you know how long,
slow to
long ago they
catch
told us
on,
about
right?
robots?
Oh,
We've been
you-
indoctrinated to it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you remember the cartoon that Jefferson?
I was just about to go.
George Jefferson.
I'm not above still. I'm not above still. Listen, George Jefferson is the best. Not George Jefferson. Jetsons.
The Jetsons.
Is the
Jetson?
best
Yeah,
example
when
of
they
our
had the
future
airplane
right now
and the
today.
dogs
Microwaves.
and microwaves and all that. Before they
Moving
didn't even
floor.
have microwaves.
Look, moving floors. Looking at every airport and around the world right now with the conveyor belt with the floor.
Mhm.
With the thing.
Everything is
Jetsons.
moving.
Yeah.
Microwaves.
Uh-huh.
Ray
But,
guns.
yeah. So that's one concept. Like I said, so they had to wait a long period of time before they actually implemented that in our society, or they would have just killed the economy in the '60s. But go ahead. Anyway, you have
No,
something else to say?
No. That's you touched on exactly what I wanted for the audience to see or get a chance to hear, because these are questions that
Every individual are asking.
Yeah, and I wanted to add something.
Mhm.
Remember, I know we own a transportation company, right? And we were driving people to hospitals and stuff. We used to have a company. So one time, we
No, go
continue?
ahead. No, go
Oh, I'm
ahead,
sorry.
baby. Go ahead.
One time that we happened to, I think we went together one time. It was two ladies that we had to pick up, and we
Mhm.
didn't realize that we were taking it to an abortion clinic.
Mhm.
We only got that, well, prior, I think it was just me anyway. I found out just before we got there. So there were people in the front of the building that knew it was a clinic, even though there's no sign there of those people. A gentleman actually, he had some pamphlet that he was handing out to women. They kept kicking him off and said, "Stop it!" Try to push him away and stuff. But still, he wanted to hand those pamphlets to the lady. Hoping to change their mind, having to change their mind. About their decision to have an abortion. So I took one of them, right? And the patients, the women that were going in, could not go inside with that kind of literature. They couldn't have anything against abortion, that talks about, that would bring them to change their mind. They couldn't. It was legal. So what I did, I actually snuck in there because I was the driver. I said, I took one and went in and sat next to her and started talking. And I gave it to her under the thing. I did that, right? Couple of days later, well, actually, no, I had to go back and pick him up. That's what happened. Pick the ladies up. The one that actually took the pamphlet changed her mind. I said, oh my God. I mean, you see, that's why I talk about education. She actually took her time. How she did it, I don't know if I went to the bathroom and read that. And then when I read it myself, because I hadn't read it yet, I saw what they wrote down. This child you cover has a name. She has a such and such. And when she read that, changed her mind, didn't do it. And so I took them both back, but one hadn't done it. That's why I feel personally that educating those women is very important. I don't know what their reasons were to do that, but I mean, once you get some knowledge about what's going on, with your life, sometimes people feel alone. They feel that what's going on in their life is just them. They feel alone. They feel isolated sometimes. And communicating with these people can even get a woman to change her mind. Letting them know certain things, sharing, listening. That's when the therapy and help come into play. You know, like I said earlier, whether the child is growing in the womb or not, they will need that help, that therapy. And you said they can have, they might be affected for life. You never know.
No, you
You
never know.
never know.
You never know. Like I said, it's a toss up between whether they actually gonna be able to deal with a situation and raise the child, or they give the child up and still be hurt inside. But something that you said was the most effective thing that was this whole conversation, which is that the education of people. And what I'm saying, if you don't even go through those circumstances or situations if you have an education about how you can prevent yourself from getting pregnant in the first place.
Knowledge is power.
Right.
True.
You understand? So those
True.
things, when you go to when you at an age when you thinking about having sex or whatever, instead of laying up with the person, make sure you go to there. If you don't want a condom or whatever, make sure that you put something that can protect you from having a baby out of wedlock, or a baby that you don't really want at this particular time.
Right.
So I think that's the most beautiful thing that you said in the whole conversation. And I think that most women, of course, my love, I mean, it is what it is, sweetheart. I mean, you really gave the essence of the whole thing is before you sleep with somebody, protect yourself. You know what I'm saying? Give yourself the protection that you need so you don't have to go through these procedures. And I think that is one of the most beautiful things you said. And I love that. Hello, Cheryl. How are you today?
I'm well, and yourself?
By the grace of God, I'm blessed. I'm here with my wife and my
Amen.
Brad Ford, and we was getting into a conversation about Roe versus Wade. And we had a discussion about it, and I said to myself, I said, I need another woman's opinion about that situation. So can you give me some comments about what do you consider about the decision and how it affects you?
Okay, well, these are my thoughts. We all have bodily autonomy, right? So we should legitimately be able to make our own decisions as to what we want to do with our body, right? My opinion is this. Based on the original Roe v. Wade, taken at face value, it seemed legitimate. However, upon further research, it kind of gave me pause and brought a few things into question. The decision itself at this point is based on removing federal government, which I believe a lot of people want to do, from your personal decisions and just kicking it down to your state, right?
Okay.
So whatever the laws are created or by your state level officials will probably be law. you know, instead of this big outcry now that they're saying, oh, it's just going to be illegal completely. That's not going to be the case. It just goes from the federal down to the state level.
Right.
So
Right.
upon face value, I think that's a little bit of a better decision. We don't want big brother in all our business around the clock.
Right.
Upon further investigation,
Mm-hmm.
I come to find out that Miss Norma McCorvey, aka Roe,
Mm-hmm.
was swayed both ways, both in the beginning and the end.
What do you mean
the
by
be-
that? Give me indifference. How was she swayed both ways?
Okay, back in the 70s,
Mhm.
she was swayed by pro-abortion advocates, one of them being the lawyer that actually got her this case with the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
What was
So
his name? Do you know who he was?
I want to say his last name was Harvey, and I just clicked when we were speaking earlier. I was in the midst of reading that. I believe his
Okay.
name is Harvey, but he's very well documented.
Okay.
So the Atlantic actually had this big write-up. This was actually filed in Texas in 1970.
Right.
Originally, and Jane Roe came on the scene, Norma McCorvey, in 73. She never had the abortion.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, she gave her child up for adoption. She subsequently had 3 other pregnancies and gave those up for adoption as well. And then, Harry Blackman was his name. I see I did write it down. The original attorney that got her involved in the case back in 73.
Okay.
That was that's the justice. Okay, so she was paid by these pro groups back in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Justice Harry Blackman noted that the pregnancy will come to term before the usual appellate process was completed. So
Mm-hmm.
even though she said that she wanted an abortion, the fact of the matter is the courts already knew that she was going to have this child back in the 70s.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So later on in life, she became born again. She found the Lord. Now she's, anti-abortion up to a point where she says up to 3 months of gestation, and that should be it. It should be cut off.
Sure,
And again,
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
Take
no,
me back
please.
a little bit. You said the court already knew that she was going to have she was going to have a baby.
She was gonna come to terms with the baby.
Okay.
Right. Justice Harry Blackman noted that the pregnancy will come to term before the usual appellate process is complete, meaning before
I
that
see.
court case was even complete,
Okay.
she would have had the
No,
baby.
no. Right. Okay.
Okay. So it was kind of like bogus from the beginning, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then later on, she came out and stated, well, I think it should only be legal up to 3 months. And then she was paid by anti-abortion activists. I'm trying to see. There was a name of the one organization that she had listed. I didn't write it down here, but she was paid by these activists to come out and then say, well, no, I don't believe that it should be right after such and such a time. Okay, so obviously this woman was just a pawn in a bigger game.
Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree with that.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Right?
Let me ask you a question.
That's interesting.
So do you think that on Wade versus Roe and is something more than actually what meets the eye, and this could be looked at as like different angles, like because I see everybody isn't set with one opinion and everybody having resource. And I want to ask you your resource information. Is there any way we can locate that? Because there's some things that you said that's really informative.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure the people who overhearing this would like to know, because you're saying stuff like Justice Blackman, and these are Supreme Court judges.
Right.
So the people who might want to look at this information and what you're saying and to test this reliability, is there any sources that we can refer them to?
I got this particular piece that I just quoted from was out of a publication called The Atlantic.
Mm-hmm.
And Yeah, it
What's the
was
date on it so they can find it? Because it's by date.
right. It was actually one of the first ones that popped up. I did not date that,
Okay.
and I usually do. Um, let's see. She actually worked though. It said she was paid by these groups.
Mhm.
And she did a documentary for Fox.
Okay.
And she stated all this, and she even said, "I'm a great actress. That's what I do."
Oh.
So that kind of like takes the credibility away from anything in this original case, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, that was from the Atlantic. That first one, there. But that really gave me pause, and then I started looking into Planned Parenthood, and that was just on my own volition, right? Because everybody's Planned Parenthood is the big thing now. Every Planned Parenthood. So when I began looking into that, I found out that the founder of Planned Parenthood's name was Margaret Sanger. Now, Miss Margaret Sanger was a blatant racist. Okay, what she did, let's see, this is from the USA Today publication.
Okay. I was going to ask you, do you have any resources for that?
Right. Okay, she
So
worked to
all these
advance.
things, hold up, Cheryl. So all these things can be looked up, and they can be actually
Source.
seen, right, and sourced, right. Absolutely. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Correct. Okay, so with that, she actually worked to advance what was called the Negro Project back in the early 1900s, speaking with the AKK to advocate eugenics, the eugenics approach about suppression, elimination, and extinction of defective stock. It's nauseating. It's
Yeah,
nauseating.
it gets deep.
You
It
said
gets deep.
defective stock.
It go
Defective stuff.
defective. Can you imagine?
Right, the DNA issue, right?
Right. In other words, black people, people of color, are defective stock.
Right.
I'm sorry. I just get emotional because this really hit. This hurts. It hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts as a white woman.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
Because listen, we got racism, right? We could talk about that forever, and people look at you a certain way, and they don't realize that you don't feel that way. You,
Right.
you know.
Mhm.
So what this woman worked to do was try to hire black doctors, spiritual leaders, in order to justify what she did within the Planned Parenthood movement. Okay, in other words, if these religious leaders said it was okay for black folks to terminate their children and exterminate their children, then it would be easier to get them in there to do it than just to say some white doctor saying, "Oh, it's okay." She was trying to have a trust issue.
Right.
Put trust in the black community, all while trying to exterminate them.
Right.
And when did she found
I believe
parenthood?
it was 1916.
1916.
Wow.
And when did it come to fruition where she was able to actually have determination of black kids and
Well,
Hispanic
she did
kids?
this all along. That was the whole basis for Planned Parenthood. That was the whole foundation of the organization.
Oh wow.
So this was never something new. And what bothers me is now, like I was saying earlier, instead of Planned Parenthood, and they say they do, but we don't know. I mean, you see people out here today saying crazy stuff, right? So they say they offer X amount of services, right, to people.
Right.
Well, what services do you actually offer? Because all people really associate Planned Parenthood with is abortion,
Right.
right? So when these young women come in once, twice, thrice, are you offering them alternatives to pregnancy? Are you offering them ways to, as far as contraception? Are you
We spoke on
offering
that
them?
earlier.
What do
Right.
they, what do they claim to offer, Cheryl?
Um,
What?
they're They're claiming,
Yeah.
let's see.
I heard about contraceptions, like method of different method of contraceptions, and I don't,
Right.
I don't personally know.
The one statistic I was able to find on Planned Parenthood centers in 2015,
Mm-hmm.
they're saying 10.6 million procedures or interactions were had in the United States alone, and they're claiming 327,653 to have been abortions. That's still a lot of babies being murdered.
Is that
In my
within a year per year, or is it ever
that's
since?
that was this was just in 2015. I couldn't find anything
Oh,
more
I see.
recent, but I was trying to get that research, and maybe the next time we speak I'll have all that information.
And this is
Oh,
you said that many people since 2015
Since
and no, just
in
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 2015,
that 1 year.
in that 1 year. That's what they're
Oh.
claiming.
Mm.
Now, what we don't know about, but then I started getting a little bit deeper. I recently lost a childhood friend. She had needed a kidney, and we all tried to see if we were compatible. This and that. Everybody wanted to give my girlfriend BB a kidney. She was beautiful people. She was dying. She was on dialysis, right? So there's this thing called black market organs.
Wow.
The black market is a multi-billion-dollar a year industry for organs in general. So there's like 2,000 names a month according to AMU Edge that I happen to glance at. 2,000 names a month go on a list for organs. 18 die a day within the US alone waiting for organs. People with money or a couple bucks, they turn to the black market, right?
Yes.
So I'm sorry, July 2015, a video appeared of a Planned Parenthood filming an abortion of a fetus to preserve the organs for research.
What type of research of it?
Well, they're saying it would be biological, it would be scientific, World Health Organization, National Institute of
So whatever.
virology. Now that's maybe on the up and up. You know, you have stem cell research, you have all that fetal tissue. Okay, but now let's just go here. $650,000 for a human heart.
Oh shoot.
On the black market. There's actually a list. I just went with the heart because that's what you know what I mean, the heart. $650,000 for a heart. They had
Wow.
1.5 billion dollars a year for 12,000 illegal organ harvestings.
And where do you think they was getting these hearts and these black market parts from?
From everything from abducted and murdered children to aborted babies.
Okay. So that plays a big part in, you think, the legislation of having abortions recertified?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, they just recently, we saw last year, they wanted to have full-term abortions up to delivery. So basically, your baby's kicking in your belly and you're going to abort that baby and kill it? I have to question that rationale. I have to question where your heart and your head are at that point. You know, I lost my daughter. I delivered her at 5 months, and she lived about 15 minutes. And
Sorry
they
to hear
couldn't.
that.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm good. The Lord works in His way, right?
Right.
Had she lived, she would have had major issues. She was born too early, oxygen, the whole thing. But with that, afterwards, now I'm 51 years old. Thank you, Lord.
Praise God for that.
And You know, if in all these years from the time I was 22 years old, I was able to manage not getting pregnant and not needing an abortion and seeking out as a woman, seeking out means, whether I was financially set or not, to be able to prevent conception, then there's no reason why other people can't too. Listen, like I said, bodily autonomy is huge for me. Whatever you choose to do with your body is your business. But I think at a certain point, we need to ask, why are they so hell bent on pushing abortion instead of pushing contraception, instead of pushing hygiene? This goes so deep. I mean, you're going to tell me abortion is your only way? Well, did you not think about when you're having intercourse with somebody, your hygiene? Did you not think a condom might come into play? Did you not? Do you understand what I'm saying? So,
hold on, Cheryl. I don't mean to interject, but the
please.
producer Rab has a question, right? You had a question?
Sure.
The question was in reference to you were speaking about the different, like the stem cells and not so much stem cells, but like the organs being stolen. And I recall something that has been not just Haiti, but in America.
Yeah.
Right? Where this young black guy died.
Yeah.
And they stole all his organs. When they went to autopsy him, they found out that he had no organs in there. They went to the what they call it, the morgue.
The coroner, right?
I had no idea. Everybody like shocked. Oh, then this when they started having the issue of discussion on organ stealing and selling.
Wow.
Now I brought up something. This what I you probably remember this back in our time. UMD.
Yeah.
Martland back then.
My goodness.
Those mobiles was noted for laboratory experiments.
Yes.
Fetuses.
Yes.
Organs in there. So that's kind of a verification as to what she was saying. They've been doing this for years.
For years. This isn't new.
Organs and claim they, for research, but we don't know what they do with them.
We don't know what they're doing. Let me ask you this. All these missing children now, right? Wasn't it just a year or so ago, everybody was screaming about these kids coming over the border being kept in cages, right?
Yes.
Now this administration lifted the background check for the federal background check for homes and places for these children to go, right? So now, I don't know. So now, where are all these kids? Who's got these children?
Did they get reunited with their parents? No, I'm assuming.
We don't know. Everybody was screaming about it. Now the media's hush on it. They don't even speak on these children.
Well,
where they go?
If they didn't go with a parent, then we would expect to hear from the parent, right? That's why
I'm saying though. Are they hearing from the parents? Are they coming from other countries? Are these parents not able to get through to find their children? What don't we know? Right?
Yeah.
Now let me ask you this. There's children that go missing in this country alone every day. Little boys and girls. You see it every day on the internet, on Facebook. You see it you used to see it on the news, right? Now you don't. You used to see it on the milk carton. Now you don't. Where are these babies and what are they being used for?
And on that note, we're going to end it for today, and we're going to come back and we're going to go back over this subject. And
yes, I think we need to speak on this regularly.
Yes, yeah. And Cheryl, we want the people to know exactly what you're doing. We want to give a shout out and let you know that whatever you're doing, we're going to be a part of it. And just please give the people what you're doing and where they can go get in contact with you if they have any other questions or information that they need.
Any other questions, you can reach me at dogmutha, DOGMUTHA1 at Gmail. Feel free to email me anytime. I get back to as many emails as I can. Right now, living my life for the Lord, still rescuing
Praise
dogs
God
now.
for that.
Got it.
Amen.
Amen.
You know, I've been saved. I have to give all the glory to Him, right?
Man,
Every day, all day.
That's
All
what's
And
day.
on that note, we're gonna say bye. But one more last thing, you can check us out. We get ready to launch our own channel. It's gonna be on Roku. You can check out MacAWise/Wise Choice. And thank y'all so much for joining us.
Thank
We'll continue
you.
this
Thank
conversation
you.
next
Thank you,
week.
Cheryl.
And Cheryl, much love and respect.
God
WC,
bless. Love
y'all.
you guys.
WC, wise choice. WC all day.
God
All day, all
bless.
day, all day. God bless,
God
Cheryl.
bless.
God
Love you
bless.
guys.
bless
Take
you,
care.
Cheryl.
Thank you for having me.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.